ALF Joaquin here for Get Sports Focus. This is the Uncut segment, and we have a very, very, very special guest today. I'm talking about
Not really. Not really.
1996 Olympian from San Jose, California, Dr. Marco Sanchez.
Hey, Alf, how you doing?
I'm good. First of all, thank you for taking time today. We are actually at Independence High School for the 2018 CCS tournament, and Gilroy just shattered their record.
Yes.
Let's start with that, Coach. I mean, what's going on with Gilroy Wrestling right about now?
Wow. Well, yeah, we are excited about this season. We were projected to do very well at the state meet. Part of that is getting state qualifiers to the state meet, and right now we're sitting on 11. And with the possibility of two more, as two more are battling through the consolations. So, yeah, to have 13 in the semifinals was pretty. 12 in the semifinals was pretty amazing, and to push 11 in was pretty awesome.
And this, I got your text right before we were setting this up. I got your text. You guys just broke 300 points already?
We did. Our goal for the last few years was to break 300. We fell short the last 3 years, although we broke our record each time.
Yeah.
We got to 297.5 last year, and we lost a match in the finals, which could have put us over the top by a few points of 300. But we're going into the finals with 326 points, I believe.
All right, well, this segment is meant to be educational. So for all the people who they have no clue what we're talking about with these 300, these point system, can you just briefly just summarize what the scoring system is like?
Sure. Wrestlers get points for advancing throughout the tournament. You get more points for advancing in the championship round. So having 11 into the finals, each of them scoring almost 30 points apiece just by getting to the finals, got us there. And then they have the opportunity to, if they win, they get an additional 4 points. If they get a pin, they get 2 plus 4, so it's 6. So there's an opportunity to potentially score another 66 points in the finals if we win with all pins.
Did everybody pin everybody?
So far we had 37 pins last year total for the tournament.
That's including the finals.
Yes.
Okay.
And we're currently over 40 right now. With 11, with still 14 matches to go if you count the consolation matches we have right now.
Yeah, I was talking to Coach Greg earlier, and I was like, "Thank you for saving us some SD card space," because some of those matches were like 30 seconds.
Yes.
There was a few that were like really, really quick. So and we got the semis. We got some of the quarterfinals of Gilroy Wrestling. You know, we're working on another piece on Gilroy. You know, obviously we like your program, or we really admire what you guys have done there. So with that,
and I appreciate that. And just ask, there's one record that 300 is the first time any team's scored that many in the CCS. The only record that's left is the 7 individual championship records.
Ooh.
Individual champions set by Independence High School, my alma mater, back in 1995 when they won the state team title.
Oh.
So we have come close 3 times. We've had 6 champions 3 times, but we've always fell short. So this time, we could probably pull it off tonight.
Well, cue up the music because we're gonna go back in the days right now. So we're here at Independence. You just mentioned that this is your high school.
Yes.
But let's go a little bit farther back. Like we always do in this segment, we want to get to know you. We want to hear your inspiring story. Tell us about the younger days.
Well, the younger days, I'm glad you mentioned it. Coach Ashmore, my middle school coach, was in the stands today. I invited him, and he's amazing. He's the one that got me started in the sport back in 1980.
Wow.
1980. And he broke up a fight that I was in, and he did that frequently, and I was a troublemaker. And he finally said, "Hey, you think you could fight? You think you're tough?" And he drugged me into the wrestling room. The fight was in the back of the school. Yeah, and the wrestling room was like right in the back of the school, and they were just warming up. So he dragged me into the wrestling room. He put me in the middle, and he whistled like only Coach Ashmore could whistle. And he says, "Hey guys, look, fresh meat." And then they all just like they all took turns just whooping on me. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just like, first of all, I got beat up during the fight I was in.
Wow.
And then I got beat up by the wrestling team.
Wow.
And so I came back the next day, and I was like, well, after they got done torturing me for what seemed like an hour, I looked at everyone and go, I'm going to be back. I'm going to beat every one of you guys. And so I came back the next day and just got hooked on the sport. It gave me something to do. It gave me an outlet that was positive, and I was rewarded for it. And nowadays, Coach Ashmore would have got sued, doing something like that.
I was about to say.
But that was back in the day. It's tough love, and it worked for me.
I was about to say, okay, now tell us the real story, because that sounded like a movie.
That was it. That was it.
And you know what's interesting is every time I talk to a lot of coaches, and I ask them, it's like, tell me about your background, tell me how you got started. And it's like that, where you're thinking, it's like, really? No,
That was it.
And I remember when we did the documentary on Gilroy, one of your wrestlers, Lupe. His story was so inspiring, but the way it happened for him, you guys cared about him.
Oh, yeah.
The wrestlers showed that they care about him.
It took an intense intervention. And I would describe what happened with Lupe, the same thing would happen with me. Men have to get after those boys, and we have to bring those boys under our wings and sometimes show some tough love. And in today's society, unfortunately, those kind of interventions are frowned upon.
Yeah.
Which is too bad, because it could be a life changer.
Yeah. Well, so that was middle school.
Yeah.
How did you do when you started wrestling?
I was 0-12 my first year. I was vastly undersized for my weight. I was, I think, 60 pounds, and I was wrestling 70. And so I didn't win until my second year. And then I almost won the county. And then the following year, my 8th grade year, I won the county. And which was awesome and undefeated, and that was something I always wanted to do, because there was a wall of fame at Shepherd Middle School that had some great names in it, and including Eric Guerrero, and a few going fast forwarding, Eric Guerrero also attended that school. Ruben Gonzalez was a state champion, attended that school. We had the Perez brothers that won the state title for Overfelt back in 1979. They all went to that school, so their names were all up there. And I was like, I want to get my name up there, Coach. What do I got to do? Got to win the county. I'm like, okay. So I finally won the county, and that year my mom passed away. She never missed a match of mine, win or lose, and she always stuck by me. She died just before the season started.
Oh, wow.
So I dedicated that season to her in her honor. So I was like, wrestling for something like greater purpose. And yeah. So that was awesome. And then I ended up going to Independence High School. Coach Barajas, who's also in the stands, retired, sitting next to Coach Ashmore, Coach Barajas student taught for Coach Ashmore.
Okay.
Back in the late 60s. And so Coach Ashmore has this coaching legacy of people that have come out of this program as a coach, but he's mentored a lot of coaches. And so Barajas came from Ashmore, and then from Ashmore came Coach Perez, and then from that circle of coaches came me. And so, that's how the progression worked throughout the years. And so Independence was an amazing school. It was newer at the time. It was the newest school in Eastside Union High School District, and we had an opportunity to. Coach Barajas won the state title for Overfelt, actually, as a team in '79, and then he transferred here. He's an art teacher, and he started the program. Well, this program was already in pretty good. The first set of Palominos already came through.
Gotcha. Okay.
Ricky and Anthony won state titles for Independence High School in 80 and 83. And then Ruben Gonzalez won it in 86. And I had an opportunity to win the state title in 88, which was awesome. And but the program was pretty good. And then afterward, all the little guys, all the little 76ers that were kiddos when I was in high school, Guerrero, the second set of Palominos, Tony Gomez, Oscar Gonzalez, all those guys they ended up winning the state title in 1995. So the banner's hanging in the gym there. So
yeah, it's there.
It is.
That is awesome.
I know.
See, for all the people that have some knowledge of how powerful San Jose was, back in those days. And obviously now it's like you guys are doing it over at Gilroy. I always see the connection with what you guys are doing. And did it start here in San Jose? Or?
It did. At San Jose, this is the formerly known, the league here used to be called the MHAL, the Mount Hamilton Athletic League. Okay. And now it's the BVAL, the Blossom Valley Athletic League. The MHAL had 3 teams win the state title, believe it or not. Andrew Hill in 1978.
Yes.
Overfelt in 79.
Okay.
And in Independence in 95. 3 from this league.
Wow.
So that's pretty amazing.
And we haven't won anything since.
We haven't.
Since 90, was it 95?
95, and in 96 they took second. They lost by a half point to Calvary Chapel at the state meet.
Oh, my goodness.
And and then, of course, the last big year they had was when Jacob Palomino finished his career here with making the finals.
Was that
4
early
times.
2000s?
2000. I want to say 2000. It was
2000?
the year he was going for his 4th title. And,
I remember that too.
So there's a lot of wrestling history here, and a lot of those coaches are still around, and some of them have moved away. But Gilroy has always been tough also, by the way. They've had state champions and state place winners in the past, and then Coach Armando Gonzalez kind of got them back on the map. Mm-hmm. And won 7 or 8 straight CCS titles, and then Coach Greg took over, and then continued.
It just kept going.
So we're going for number 16 today.
Number 16. Oh, man.
And 20 overall.
That is awesome. So, okay, so let's talk about high school days, man. Back then, this school was, I mean, it still looks nice, but back then, this was like the school, right?
It was the school. It was the newest school in the Eastside Union High School. Evergreen now is the newest school, and that's already almost 20 years old. So this district, Eastside Union High School District, James Lick is one of the oldest schools in the area. You know, Jim Plunkett came out of that school. Mm-hmm. I mean, you had some very high-profile athletes come out of some of these schools that here. Silver Creek is tough. They produced an Olympic champion in hurdles, and I mean, so we've had a lot of success in Eastside, a lot of tradition. It's kind of changed now. Mm-hmm. With the emphasis on academics. Athletics is not on the same status as it was in the 80s and 90s, unfortunately. So we're seeing a lot of our schools in the East Side not do so well athletically and not be as competitive as they were.
What? How was it like growing up here in San Jose back then?
Eastside San Jose is the toughest part of San Jose. Without a doubt. And there's times where, as a kid, I remember stepping outside my door and seeing drug addicts and potheads and crackheads just waiting for on the way to the bus stop. They'd be offering you drugs and gangs. We had several gangs here, Latino gangs and Filipino gangs and then Vietnamese gangs that were pretty prevalent. We had I remember a couple of schools.
And this was like 90s, right?
This is in the 80s.
In the 80s,
in the 80s, yeah. Vietnamese, Filipino, and Latino gangs, and then some African American gangs as well. And they all had their names, they all had their territories, they all had their, and so I worked out at Overfeld actually on the off seasons. They had a freestyle Greco club.
Okay.
Independence didn't have one at the time, so I went here, but I worked out there in the off season. So I would ride my bike to Overfeld, which was 4-5 miles away, and I had to go through 5 or 6 different neighborhoods. And I would literally be, I get chased. I got my bike stolen twice. I got, gunpoint one time. I was just like, okay, you can take the bike. I'll walk.
Yeah.
So it was tough, and I'd come back at night and on a bike, and so I took a lot of risks just to get to Overfeld. But that's the place where all the action was at, and that's where I was going to get better. And plus the bike ride on the way just kind of made me a little street smart and able to handle myself.
I see. And so let's move on to your last year here as a senior. What was it like? Because right now, we're actually getting into the whole recruiting process of student athletes, and I'm familiar with the football side, with the basketball, but as far as wrestling, what is it like back then with wrestling and recruiting?
It was pretty similar now. Now there's early signings where you can sign as even a junior or commit. You can commit as a 9th grader, committing as an 8th grader. It's ridiculous now. Where back then, you were really restricted. I think you only could talk to seniors that are on track to graduate. I remember I took 4 trips. I ended up going to Arizona State after visiting Arizona State. Coach Bobby Douglas was the coach at the time. He coached the 1988 Olympic team. He was a 2-time Olympian himself. He showed up at my door. Literally, he showed up at my door.
He didn't tweet you?
He did before any kind of social media. This is in '88. He shows up to my door with Dave Schultz in tow. Okay, so Dave Schultz, he knocked on my door. My dad answered it. My dad doesn't know anything about wrestling, so he goes, "Hey, Marco, and he's from Puerto Rico, has a heavy accent. Marco, there's the coach here, and he wants to talk to you." And I go, "What coach, huh?" And I go and I open the door, and it's Coach Douglas. He introduced, "Hey, Marco, I'm Coach Bobby Douglas, and this is Dave." And I'm like, "I know you. This is Dave Schultz." I just saw Dave Schultz win the gold medal in Los Angeles in '84, just 4 years before that, and he was very well known from Palo Alto, of course, and his brother Mark Schultz. So to have them come into my home and say, "Hey, Marco, this is what your next 4 years could look like," and he had a letter of intent already. It was on typed paper. Wow. It was, and he goes, "If you're interested in coming, we'd love to have you." And they just won the NCAAs the year before. They were the first team outside of the Midwest in 20-something years to win the NCAAs. They beat Iowa State. And here I had an opportunity to go to a national championship caliber program. Mm-hmm. And I just remember just signing right on the spot. And then my dad had to sign too. And so he signed, and then next thing you know, I was in Arizona.
You didn't have to fax anything?
Nothing. It was so old school. I mean, I even have a copy of the letter of intent. So
if you kids are listening, that's how it was done back in the days.
A handshake.
Similar process, but they showed up at the door.
Yeah, now it's just, it's so funny. They show up, they do a recruiting trip. They're taking photo shoots. They got their, singlet on. They got the gear on. They got the sweats on. It's pretty much, it's a big show now.
It is.
Back then, not so much.
It is. Well, I mean, you mentioned David Schultz.
Yes.
I saw the movie, not the theatrical one. I saw the Netflix original documentary, I guess.
Nice.
Tell us a little bit about that experience of. Did you actually work with him, or?
No, my coach, my high school coach. I had two of them. I had Coach Barajas, Jess Barajas. He went my freshman, sophomore year. And then my junior and senior year, Coach David Shade was my coach.
Okay.
And David Shade, his son Danny Shade was a two-time state champion for Gunderson.
As in Bellarmine?
And his grandson went to Bellarmine. And he was a all-state wrestler and is ranked currently. But his son Danny was an NCAA champion, a four-time All-American for OU, and wrestled for Foxcatcher, and he's probably in a lot of those videos that you mentioned in the documentary. He was well connected. He knew people, so we had people like Dave Schultz do clinics here for our high school, and just come through and just
I'm getting goosebumps, man, just listening to this.
So I got a picture I can show you that later on with when I first got my cauliflower ear, and we were posing, and then my coach grabbed my arm during for the photo shoot, and then Dave reaches around and squeezes the heck out of my cauliflower, and then right when I'm doing this, they took the picture, click, and it was just the funniest thing. I'll never forget it. It was actually in the room next door in the oxygen where that happened. It was just funny.
Wow.
But memories like that. Yeah, he was a stud. And then when I wrestled internationally and at the open level, Dave Schultz's career went long enough where you're wrestling on a mat next to him. At the nationals, and so that was an awesome experience. Wrestling at the Sunkus Open one year, I remember I took fourth. Dave Schultz won it that year. That was pretty cool, being in the same gym, and he's still competing and me competing, and being such a hero and everything. Yeah, that was a special time.
That's awesome. I remember the documentary. A lot of the wrestlers that were talking about him. Same exact way you just talked about him, just being in the same room. It was like something special.
Genius of the sport, just a mastermind, and just studied it. I mean, he was truly a master of the sport.
Wow. So, all right, Arizona State. How was college life, and what was the steps to get to the next level?
College was the hardest thing I ever did in my life. Being out there away from home that first year, I was pulled out of red shirt in the middle, right before the Las Vegas Open, or not Las Vegas Invitational, and was competing right out of high school. We had the toughest schedule in the country because we just won the national title the year before, so everybody wanted a piece of us. I had to go on road trips that were 12 days long. They would start in Iowa, they'd go through Cleveland, they'd go through West Virginia, through Pennsylvania on a bus. You're cutting weight. You're wrestling national caliber opponents every weekend. It was tough. I literally was this close to quitting. I remember crying out in the parking lot after I got smacked. I had like a 7-match losing streak, wrestling the Brands brothers, wrestling Kendall Cross. I wrestled Jim Martin. These were all national champions. I had them all in 1 week.
Wow.
At the Virginia Zulls, and I was just like miserable. Zeke Jones, current coach at
Zeke
Arizona
Jones,
State,
yes.
used to be my my roommate. I just remember him putting his arm around me. It's gonna be all right, man. No, it's not. I was just crying. I want to quit. I want to go home. And he talked me out of it. He said, "Hang in there," and he kind of took me under his wing. And I always remind him about that. I was so grateful and thankful to have him there at that moment. And then the coaches just got around me and just kind of encouraged me. And I went 17. I lost more matches my true freshman year in college than I did all 4 of my years in high school.
High school?
So,
Wow.
Yeah, I remember going 19-19.
Wow.
But I qualified for the NCAAs and took third in the Pac-10, and got a chance to go, and then eventually went to the round of 12 my sophomore year. I lost right before, and then was an All-American my junior and my senior year. So it was the toughest. College wrestling is the toughest thing you'll ever do.
Wow.
Yeah, it's intense.
What the workout that I see some of these guys do and at the college level is just unbelievable.
Yeah, the weight workout too. We would wrestle for 2 hours at a very intense pace, and then we'd lift, and we're talking. I mean, you're lifting. You're doing pull-ups with 45s, chained around, and you're doing them for reps.
Goodness.
You're doing bar dips with 90 pounds. I mean, you're doing to the point of failure. You're talking about this is after an exhausting workout, and then we'd run Squaw Peak. Squaw Peak was a 2-mile straight up mountain that you had to do in under 20 minutes, to even be to be legit. And there's guys that could run it in 16 that were just billy goats.
Did you ever get injured while you were wrestling in high school or college?
Oh yeah. I have I got a plate and 7 screws in my left ankle that I broke in practice, and then I had a severely dislocated middle finger that I did just 2-3 days before the games. I landed on it and it just completely snapped, and so I taped it to this finger here, and just wrestled like this. Guys grabbing it, it's like. So yeah, I've had some. Got the course of cauliflower ears. I had surgery on both my knees. I have a separated hip bone that I did my junior year in high school. Separated ribs.
Wow. But you're in one piece right now.
I'm in one piece. Yep. Yes,
Man.
sir.
So what was your major when you were in Arizona State?
I was a history major, history and sociology.
Nice.
And then I ended up getting my going into teaching while I was competing. So I was competing and teaching.
So this was after
I graduated from Arizona
Okay.
State, yes. And I was fortunate enough to have people. Here's the thing about wrestlers and a lot of people in sports, especially amateur sports. They don't have like an exit strategy. They don't know how to transition out of the sport, right? They don't.
That was going to be my next question.
Yeah, you plant your seeds and you meet people, you network. And so when I got out, I knew people. They were already offering me jobs. They were already saying, hey, you could work here. You could do this and this. You could go into teaching and coaching, and that's exactly what I did. And I was still competing as well, and was able to start my teaching career and compete for, 7 or 8 years outside of college. I continued, past the Olympics. So, and then I had the type of job that was flexible. The people I knew, they would let me go. I'd go train at the OTC in Colorado Springs. I'd travel, to Europe, to different parts of the world and compete, and still be able to hold down a job. So that was fun.
Just in case you guys are wondering what that music is, we're actually in the dance room of Independence High School. I think they have rehearsals next door, so,
Yep, band rehearsals. Cool.
it sounds pretty cool, though. But, all right, well, no, that's awesome, man. So you were competing and then working. That's like the life of...
Competing, working full-time. I was
Working full-time,
I was
yeah.
a full-time teacher, and then I was a dean of students, and then I eventually became I was a counselor, I was the activities director, all at a junior high, and I coached at the high school. This is all in Arizona.
Okay.
So Chandler, Arizona. So that was, I did that for 5 years and was still nationally ranked. I mean, even when I passed the Olympics, I was able to finish, in the top 4 at the U.S. Open. So it was fun. It was a fun season.
What was the Olympic experience like? I mean, it was right here in our country.
It was amazing. It was amazing to be there, and I just remember being in opening ceremonies, and there was 2 stadiums. They put the athletes in one, and then there was the opening ceremony stadium. So we'd march into the Fulton County Stadium, I believe it was called, and but we were there late. Here's the thing. I mean, we were there till like 1 in the morning by the time everything got done and over.
Wow.
And then we got back to the Olympic Village. And I'm over looking at my clock. I got to be up in 5 hours the way in. And Greco-Roman is the first event of the 2 Olympic styles. Greco-Roman, the first 2 days of the games. Freestyle is the last 2 days.
Oh, so there's 2 different ones. Okay.
Yes, and now there's 3 because women.
Ah.
But it was nice getting the competition out of your way the first 2 days of the games because you could enjoy the next 12 days of the games.
Yeah.
Versus the poor freestylers, they were just like cutting weight the whole time.
Oh my goodnit's.
You know, the Olympic Village was amazing. They gave you a credential and you could just pretty much go anywhere and eat anything, anytime. And there's concerts and it's just like a whole city. And that was, of course, the Olympics where the bomb went off in Centennial Circle.
Yes.
And Muhammad Ali actually lit the torch.
Yes.
So I was there for that. Just standing next to Shaquille O'Neal and
that was a
the
dream team.
Yeah, David Robinson. He signed my jacket. It was an amazing Olympics, and in the competition itself, I mean, just going in there and finishing in the top 15, and which I could have easily finished in the top 10. I had an overtime match that I lost that would have pushed me in there in the top 10, but it was an amazing experience to be able to. I scored 8 points as a at that level, including a 3-point body lock. It was fun. It was awesome. And then being able for the next 12 days just to go and watch any sport I wanted. I saw the gymnastics team win the gold. I was able to see Michael Johnson in his gold shoes run the 200. And
wow.
It was amazing.
This is a great opportunity to sit down with you and talk about these things because, man.
It's hard to believe it was over 20 years ago, but yeah, it was a special time.
Nice. Now, a lot of athletes are going to be listening to this, and talk about your background when it comes to academics. I mean, you are the principal
yes.
of Gilroy High School.
In my 9th year.
Ninth year, yes.
Yeah, and it's fun leading a school. I love it. It's a challenge. I love having the opportunity to work with teachers and parents and students to make the school a better place, which is what we've done in the last 6 years. We've really the school has been completely remodeled.
Yeah,
it's
beautiful.
The enrollment's growing, so we actually have a waiting list of students that are trying to get in, and we've created some really great programs at Gilroy High School.
CCS football champions.
Oh yeah, football season was amazing. Going 13-0, just going all the way, winning the rivalry game versus Christopher High for the first time in 6 years, and so it was a very special season. We have 4 wrestlers that are on the team. That really helped with that effort. But it was just an awesome season.
The only thing I gotta say is, how come they get a parade and you guys don't get a parade?
I guess it was special because they had 2 teams, Christopher High and Gilroy High both win the Division 4, Division 5, and so. Yeah, and I guess they're kind of used to us winning the section. If we win the state title, though, that could be parade material.
I've been doing my research, Coach.
I'll make the case for it.
I've been doing my research, and I like how you guys are looking this year.
Yeah.
And
thank you.
A little bit more about what kept you going, man. I mean, you're like the success. You are a very successful man. I see you as a great example to everybody, especially the young kids, to go through life and just take advantage of all the things that were put in front of you.
Yeah, and that's what I've been able to. First of all, I've been very fortunate to have people around me to help support my success. I could not be here without the folks I mentioned earlier, Coach Ashmore, Coach Barajas, Coach Shade, Coach Perez, principals, coaches, my workout partners, my mom, her encouragement, my dad, my teammates have been awesome. I have a very supportive family. You know, my wife's very supportive. We have great parents in our school community. Also, as well, I have a great boss, a superintendent, who lets me come out and play on the Fridays when I have to miss work, and she's very supportive. Just been really fortunate, been blessed, and I thank God that I've had that opportunity to prosper. And it wasn't because of me; it's because I think the people He's put in my life to help me prosper. And so I'm a product of those people, and so I'm very thankful. I thank God every day for that opportunity.
Well, since you're a principal and we have you here, what are your thoughts on social media and kids these days?
It could be a blessing and it could be a curse. You know, it could be a great, powerful thing for good, or it could be a very negative thing for evil. And so I just ask our students to use it responsibly, and especially our athletes. You know, the trash talking and banter that could go back and forth, could get out of hand, and next thing you know, people's feelings get hurt, and so it has to be done responsibly. I am not on it. I have a Twitter account that
I was about to ask you, what's your handle, Coach?
I rarely use. I'm just not into it. I used to have a Facebook account. I don't have it anymore. You could get consumed by it. It could really take over your life, and you'll miss the people that are right in front of you, interacting with people like the real people, instead of just on a screen. And so I much prefer that. And so, like I said, it could be a great tool if used properly.
Can you imagine if you had social media back in your days? You'd be with your cell phone walking in the stadium.
We didn't have cell phones back then.
No, we didn't. We had beepers, right?
Pagers were coming out. I had one. I had a pager along with my Walkman, my cassette and my VCR. I was good.
Yeah, kids today are spoiled, man.
Way too much. They have way too much things, and a lot of things they don't have to work for. They're just handed to them, and you don't learn to appreciate things when they're just handed to you. And I had to work very hard for the things I have. And again, that's my mom's work ethic in me. I thank her for that. But yeah, we live in a very, very prosperous society, and there's a lot of things, a lot of distractions. Mm-hmm. And so the key for our wrestlers is making sure we keep those distractions to a minimum. They've done a really nice job. They've worked really hard this season. Today's showing and yesterday's showing is a result of that work, and then we're hoping at the state meet that we could finish as high as possible.
Yeah, you mentioned working hard and earning what you got. And how do you guys do that as a coaching staff? Because your wrestlers are top notch. I mean, it's different when I go in your practice.
I know a lot of it is them. A lot of it is their desire, their focus. Mm-hmm. So you gotta have that, their talent, the time they put in, year round. And the saying, summer wrestlers make winter champions. They wrestle year round, so they put the time in the summer, and during the winter season it shows up. You've seen the product of that work. And then also Coach Greg and I and Coach Corona and the coaching staff in general, we get together and we talk specifics about each wrestler and how they need to improve in what areas, and we design our practices to support that. And then we do scouting. We look at specific opponents that we're going to face, and we look at how we're going to make our adjustments. And in the course of the match, it could be staggering a different leg. It could be, grabbing a wrist.
Down to the detail,
just very
right?
very detailed and specific. And the more specific and detailed you are, you watch the film with the wrestler too, side by side. You walk them through the video, and then you ask them to reflect, and then they internalize that change, and they make the adjustment. So that's the way usually we find our success.
Nice. Well, a couple more questions before we wrap this. First of all, this has been really inspirational. This is really cool.
Thanks for having me.
The 15 minutes is now like over 30.
Oh, shoot. Oh, okay. We got to cut it down.
Yeah, we got to cut it down. What is your goal now? What is it what's next for you as far as,
I like what I'm doing right now. Professionally, as a principal, I like doing that job. I've done it for my 11th year, if you count the middle school, and that I was at prior. I love it. I want to just continue the success of the school and the sports programs and the academic programs, and just keep, staying the course.
And I'm glad we have you here. We were able to do this right now because I know you have a busy schedule at school, and I was like, man, I don't want to bother him.
No problem.
He gets there early, he gets home late.
It's a big job.
But what as far as like being a mentor, what would be your main message to kids? What's what do you always tell them? Like,
we emphasize sportsmanship first. We always want to represent our school and do it with honor and dignity and integrity, and just be good people. You know, that's job one. And then all the good things will flow out of that. Being a good person, being responsible, being a person of your word, following through, making sure that you're accountable to yourself and to your teammates and to your coaches and to your parents. Treat your parents well. And, you know, take care of business in the classroom. Be a scholar athlete. And of course, the athletic achievements and everything, we want that. But we want you, first of all, to be a well-rounded, good person, because you're going to be a person all your life. You're not always going to be a wrestler, you know.
Yeah.
You're not going to be a competitor all your life. You're not going to be on the mat all your life, but you're going to be a person. So if you're going to be a person, be a good person. And be that person that people want to be a good leader. Be a good influential leader. And pour back into the next generation of kids. So you'll see in our program, you'll see the alums show up. They'll come back and wrestle. They'll work with our kids. They're in the stands right now. Some of them.
Saw a couple of them, yeah.
Yeah, and so they want to get back to the program because they see the value in it. And so just, you know, give back to what the program that produced you.
Well, Doc, it's been this is awesome. I'm glad we were able to do this. This is probably not the only time we're going to do this, because I know there's more. There's a lot more things that we want to do with Gilroy.
Well, you do. Well, first of all, I want to thank you, ALF, and get Sports Focused. The amazing series you put on, it was just brilliantly done.
That was fun.
You guys do great work, and I'm just honored that you guys chose us as a project, and so we're really blessed. Thank you.
We make a good team, man. All right. Well, thank you again, and good luck in the finals, man.
Thanks, Coach.
Let's shatter more records.
I know.
All
For
right.
sure.